Hey, my name is Cameron Beck with Eclipse Lighting and Grip, and today we're going over how to make a stinger, or as the rest of the world likes to call it, an extension cord. So tools that you're going to need for this process. You're going to need a razor, vice grip cable cutters, probably a wire stripper, a Phillips head, and then a flathead screwdriver. And then of course, you're going to need your cable. I like to use SJ00W. That's my favorite kind. It's a 12-3 type of cable, which means there is 3 cables inside of here. That is a neutral, a ground, and a hot. And something to note, for this process, it's the exact same replication of steps for your male end and your female end. This is your male end for the stinger, and your female end would receive the male end. So after you've cut your stinger to the length that you want with your vice grip cutters or cable cutters, whatever cable cutter you like to use, what I like to do is go to the stinger. You normally go, I put my thumb up to it and I go about to the first notch of my thumb, and then I'll make a mark, and then you cut all the way around. And when you're cutting around, when you do the circle, it's pretty important that you don't cut the inner diameter. So I like to make the cut and then bend it a little bit to try to expose that cable. And when you see that, you're gonna see the cables inside start to show. Like I said, it's very important that you don't cut the cables on the inside, but you get out this outer rubber layer. All right, so I cut the end off, and now you see there are 3 different wires exposed. This is super important, guys. So this green right here is your ground, this white is always your neutral, and this black is always your hot. Those 3 cables are the same for both ends, and both ends use the ground, the hot, and the neutral. So next step would be to grab your, wire strippers. This isn't required, but it makes the process a lot faster. And I like to strip them, not super, super long, but, maybe about 1/2 inch. And then it strips it out. You'll start to see the exposed copper right here. So when you do that to each end, you're gonna take the copper and you're gonna twist it. And twisting it's gonna make it a little easier when you have to go to the next step of actually putting it inside the Edison plug that you're using. So now I have all 3 ends exposed. And like I said, I'm taking the wire, the copper right here, and I am twisting it in a pattern that's gonna make it a little easier to put it inside the Edison plug. So next step is gonna be you're going to take your Edison plug and you're gonna take off the back. And all Edison plugs are just about the same. You have this back biting part, you have the front of the Edison plug, and then like the body, as you like to call it. I'm sure there's more technical terms, but it's okay. So I remove this end, this came off. This was here before, but we're gonna take that off for now, and then we're gonna unscrew these 3 screws in front. All right, so now you just have this body and these 3 wires. You're gonna take this through and feed it here, and this is gonna be floating down here, and that's totally fine. So the next step's the most important part. It comes to the physical wiring of these copper ends inside of the Edison plug. So as you can see, this Edison plug right here has 3 different screws. Try to focus in, come on, autofocus. Well, you can tell. There's a green screw, there's a silver screw, and then there's a gold screw. Most important part of the process. Black is always gold. White is always neutral, and that's silver. So silver and white are synonymous with each other. And then green's always ground. It's pretty nice that that's pretty standard for everything, that green's always ground, but make sure that these go into these screws. So what you're gonna do, I like to start with ground. You're gonna take the ground, if the autofocus likes to work, you're going to place it inside of the stinger, or inside the Edison plug, and then screw down on it. And I would screw down pretty hard. You wanna make sure that no matter what, this does not plug out so it doesn't create a short circuit or something wrong with the unit or something messes up. And you're just gonna repeat that process with the 3. So black's gonna go into the gold, and then white's gonna go into the silver. Now, once you get these 3 ends in, you're going to find where your screws are in the build. So now you're going to take this front part right here and push it down into here where the screws match, and then you're gonna screw in right here. You're gonna do it nice and tight, because you want everything with this stinger, you want it to be very tight and very secure. And then lastly but not least, you'll take your end and then you're gonna screw this in right here all the way down to where there is no more room in this Edison plug. And this is where I like to use the Phillips screwdriver, because this process is, this part's a little harder. It takes a little bit, some elbow grease, and you gotta really really crank it in. All right, and now that there's no empty space between those two areas, that's it. And all you gotta do is repeat that process with the female end, and you know how to make a stinger. This is a skill that I feel like everybody on a film set should generally have. It's not required to know this, but it's really useful. Let's say you plug something in and it pops, or something in here melts, or the plug's really bad and there's exposed wiring. Now you know how to fix that issue and create a safer set environment. And if you want to make your own stingers at home, now you can do that too and save money, because these things are not cheap. So that's all we have today for the how to make a stinger video. There will be a later video coming on that comes in the ferrule ends and shrink wrap on the ends and making your stingers a lot more custom and fun, but that'll be at a later date, so stay tuned.